Hello everyone. Today I'm going to talk a bit about entropy. In specific terms, I'm going to talk about it on the microcosmic level. So entropy is basically the state of deterioration in all things, in all matters. So if you consider infinity an endlessness of events, it is impossible for anything to be truly within this infinity. And so all things everywhere eventually must end. The consequences of this can be seen not just in the grander scheme of things. Eventually our world will end, but be born again, but it will end. Every concept, every attitude, every goal, every belief, too, will end. And a lot of people think this is quite a nihilistic, sort of pessimistic, they extract nihilistic outlooks because of this. But really, I believe the opposite should be extracted from this entropy. Because if you consider on a microcosmic level, in the world in which we live, our day-to-day lives, ourselves, our being, the fact that this exact same entropy is reflected in our actions and in our existence means that we have control over that entropy on a microcosmic level, and that if we consciously resist it in our lives, in our existences, that too is reflected back into the macrocosm. Those acts of resistance against what is essentially a greater death and an eternal destruction, those acts of resistance then are sort of hammered into that eternity. They become fate. And so too when the cycle comes around again, and when ultimately, like everything ends, everything must be born again and again for eternity. As I've explained in previous videos when I talked about time, and when I talked about the eternal recurrence, so check out those videos. When it comes around again, the resistance against entropy will come around, and you will be resisting it not just in a moment, you're resisting it for all eternity. Because ultimately, the concept that we have some sort of choice when it comes to putting an end to things, or keeping things away from an end, really we don't have that. Everything is fated in that regard. Everything will end and everything will be born again. But what we do have control over is exactly what is born in ourselves and in our world and our existence. It's getting a little dark here. So just to put an application in how this can be done. The concept of self-improvement, I believe it's not futile whatsoever. It's completely utile. It gives us great power in our world. Because it allows us to take that destiny which we have, that which has been bestowed upon us, that mantle we are able to take up, and it hammers that into eternity. So that action will be repeated again and again. When that action dies, eventually that action itself will be born. And it's personally, I think that's quite beautiful to look at it from a psychological perspective. To think that you, as you exist now, as you will exist within the greater eternity, as they call it, exist in a certain way. Sorry about that, my phone ran out of battery. Well, I was saying, you exist in ways in which you have control over. The fact that entropy exists is incredibly positive in my opinion, because it exists on both a microcosmic and macrocosmic level. It exists in the wider eternities, and it exists in a day-to-day minutia as well. The fact that we can resist anything is proof that entropy can be overcome by us, by our souls. If you take even the smallest, seemingly insignificant thing, like I've heard it mentioned, cleaning your room, the Peter Stein mantra. The reason why cleaning your room, or being hygienic, I think that's a good one, or just taking a step up, eating healthy and exercising, and um, exercising your discipline in other ways. The reason why these things are important to the soul is that you are resisting death, resisting decay. I see a lot of people today walking about, living their day-to-day lives, who are really dead in any sense of the word. I have my own idea that concepts are fulfilled before they are actualized, before they, I guess, are experienced, because time is not really a linear passage between moments, but rather it is a collection of moments. It is moments that come together and are experienced together by a perspective. So it's not really that time itself is passing, but rather it's that you are passing, and you are passing between moments. And for this reason, every concept has been fulfilled already before it's been actualized. And in a sense, two easy ways of explaining it are, one is, say, if someone gets married. I think this is a good one. Someone must be a husband, be a wife, before they are married, really. You can't go from that sort of single or sort of youthful, innocent mindset and then suddenly you put a wedding ring on and then suddenly, oh, you're married. It's you become the concept, and then the concept is actualized. It's the same thing with death. People die long before they biologically expire, in my opinion. And it's the saddest thing in some cases. Other times it's completely justified. To look in someone's eyes and just see a lack of a soul, because they're dead, and they don't know it. Really, I think I may be being hyperbolic here, but that's a perfect way of explaining what I'm talking about here. There are moments which you resist, moments of death, and the active resistance of these moments gives you time and space to create your own moments, to place new moments. Forge an image of yourself and make the world conform to it. The idea is that the license that we have, say, given to us by fate, by the gods, by whichever force, primordial force you want to think of it as, this godlike power we have, more than any other creature on earth, to be able to choose our own fate, or to work within our fate, to forge ourselves the way we want to be forged, to build of ourselves the materials we want to be built of. We can choose our environment in different ways. We can take on trouble and hardship. We can test ourselves. We can be disciplined. We can shun all negative attributes which we do not want to be part of our souls. And in this sense, we prepare ourselves for eternity. We prepare ourselves to be born again through application of this mechanism of choosing moments we wish to experience, which in my opinion is very important. Experience builds all memory, and memory is not just something. I'm not just referring to memory in your own life, but of course I'm referring to that too. But memories can be carried through, say, to future lives. Because you, as you wish to exist, if you were to act and to live in the way you wish to live, whatever fate throws at you, that will be echoed throughout eternity. That will be born again and again. And even if you were to look at this completely nonchalantly and completely apathetically, and say, so what? Even so, on a microcosmic level, from a psychological perspective, the very fact that this is true has immense implications on the individual, which I believe are wholly positive. Sorry about that, my phone ran out of storage space this time. Anyway, I only wanted to make one more point, and that was about self-improvement. It is mathematically provable to show how even the most minimal self-improvement is just diametrically opposite to, say, the lifestyle that most people today live, which is a lifestyle of mediocrity, of submission, passivity. I guess people become comfortable in their environment, and that to me is itself death. Particularly when you're young, to be comfortable in one's environment, one should always try to avoid this scenario, because it is just the key to passivity and weakness. One should always try to find new troubles, try to find some way of going above and beyond your being, and in this way becoming who you are. This is what I mean when I say it. By forging the destiny which you want to live within the destiny which has been fated to you. By utilizing that faithfulness which you have. And that's what your will is for. That's what your will is. It's a desire to actualize that fate, that destiny. That's the most powerful thing you have. And comfort in your environment will just breed apathy and death. If, say, you were to take even a tiniest fraction, and let's take an arbitrary integer, the number 1, let's say, and the number 1 times 1 is obviously 1. If you do not add anything onto yourself, no matter how great the time period, no matter how long you live, you will not become in any way. You will not overcome, and therefore you won't become. And that's why we have all these man-children. People in their 30s and their 40s who play video games, who support football teams, who, eat Chinese takeaway. They watch Game of Thrones, perhaps, or the Netflix bullshit. And really, they're dead. They're just children. They never really lived. And they're perfectly happy with that. Whereas if you were to say, quit these things which may seem to you completely insignificant. Watching TV. I haven't watched TV in years, and it was such a waste of time. I don't even know why I did it in the first place. Stop eating fast food. Again, I haven't eaten fast food in years. And even under all those tiny things. When people say clean your room, again, it's just one of those tiny ways of resisting the inevitable death of it all. And in that same way, you are paving the way for yourself to create new moments actively. Again, it's getting too dark. So that's those are the main points I wanted to make about entropy. So that's a nice sunset. Good night. And just so you know, every sword is forged in fire. Every achievement, every accomplishment has behind it some sort of great sacrifice or struggle. And the opposite of entropy would be a state of constant conflict, a state of constant battles and wars. Spiritually, something's physical, it also has a spiritual contingent. And that's why doing something physically, doing something actively, will also help your soul in ways which philosophy and religion will never help you with. And that's one of my core beliefs, and something I just wanted to make a video on. But I'll make more videos to elaborate on this concept. Thanks for watching.